Hello, everyone. This is Tom, your host for the Hidden Truths channel. How's everybody doing this evening? Do my live stream a little later. See if I can shake up the algorithm a little bit. Go back to my old time when I used to do it. So that's why I'm back on 8 o'clock Mountain Time. So tonight we're going to discuss the Insurrection Act of 1807 and the DOD Directive 5240.01 that Biden pushed through just probably not even 8 weeks before the election. They're a bad combination, everybody. So that's what we're going to discuss tonight. Anyway, but until I get some people to show up here, because YouTube's kind of slow at responding to the live stream. Imagine that. Them not liking what I have to say. Like I say, if we ain't got enough to worry about, now we got to worry about aliens, right? And we have drone sightings again starting to happen like it did a year ago all over the world. And anyway, what is Three-Eye Atlas? I always ask myself, if we had the ability to send a probe the size of, let's say, an aircraft carrier to another solar system where we could guide it, and like we guide our own exploring orbiters like to Mars and Voyager, and how we propel them the same way this is being propelled, basically with some propulsion maybe. But if we were able to do that and it was coming up on that solar system's sun, would it look like Three-Eye Atlas is looking towards us as we're seeing it, or would it look like a comet, or would it be shedding nickel without iron and all this other stuff? I'm just curious about that. If we sent a probe to another solar system, had the ability to do that, and it entered, would it act like Three-Eye Atlas, or would they get the same type of readings? I just probably, right? That's why, all these smart men that are confused by this are wondering, is it aliens? I got some people showing up. So let's get started on the subject. The Insurrection Act of 1807 and DOD Directive 5240.01, which is about 11 months old now. Anyway, let's go into the Insurrection Act of 1807, why it was passed. The reason it was passed is because the federal government at the time thought that there may be a time when a state, where something were to happen in the state, right, that the state either couldn't handle itself, and I mean something, not natural disaster, but uprising, or what we got going on today. Okay, with this stuff in Chicago and stuff. Anyway, because if a state was not able to handle the situation, or if they wouldn't handle the situation, they just leave it alone, like in Portland. Anyway, it gives the legal framework for the federal government to send troops in there and squash a rebellion, the insurrection and stuff. And the way the act is written up, it pretty much describes what's going on in today, definitely in Portland and Chicago. Now, these other cities, I'm not so much, but definitely Portland and Chicago, these people are losing their minds. I mean, they need to squash this somehow. Whatever it takes. Sending the military out, I hate it. I mean, the thing is, the cops ain't doing this job. All they would have to do, really, is arrest the mayor of Portland, the city council, the police chief, definitely. Start at the top, and then all the little ones will fall into line like they always do. And but this is getting ridiculous. I mean, nobody, I guarantee you, I'm not allowed to sit there and go up to a cop and yell in his face or something. I know I'm going to get thrown down to the ground and get the old beat down with about 5 of them on top of me. See, I know this. But then again, I'm not going to get on a cop because he's doing his job. They just want to get rid of the illegals in this country. Why can't they do that? Why can't the government finally do one thing to help the American citizen out? But then again, they're getting rid of the illegals and increasing the foreign workers program, the H-1B visa program. You can't win either way. But yeah, so that's why the Insurrection Act was adopted or voted on and passed in 1807. But what's going on now, what I don't understand, right? When Trump was in office in 2020 and we had the summer of love, where people were getting killed in the street, cops were getting killed. We had Kyle Rittenhouse, that was his name, wasn't it? With the hat trick there in Wisconsin. We had all that going on, and he didn't. He just said it was up to the states to handle it. Remember that? He wasn't going to get involved in it. And what was going on? They're fiery but mostly peaceful protests. I mean, this isn't even close to the summer of love. And, I'm not saying what's going on there is acceptable or not like that, but is it propaganda being shoved in our face? I mean, do we got, Portland's a hellhole. Well, what do you think's going to happen when you're a sanctuary city? Okay? But anyway, and you accept liberal communist ideas and stuff. Of course, your city's going to turn into a hellhole. Dave Boggs, but the states never properly handled it. No, they didn't. But I just, being a Marine, I'm against ground forces in our cities and stuff. And Trump saying train in the cities and, we should use Chicago as a training ground and stuff. The thing is, the American people have a lot of responsibility for this crap. We let this sickness take over our country and we did nothing. Nothing. For years, as long as our lives were comfortable. We didn't care. We let the government do whatever it wanted. And now, like I say, we got Trump basically using the left's liberal useful idiots to sit there and take control, clean up the streets, whatever. Okay? But once we get troops on the streets, once the government gets their foot in the door, they never leave. Patrick Hayes, appreciate you being here. Yeah, YouTube, I'm telling you what, I'm trying everything to get my content out, and YouTube just slamming me down hard. This is why I know that it doesn't matter what party they're from. All the big elites take care of themselves. You got Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg covering for Trump, just like they covered for Joe Biden. Remember, Mark Zuckerberg gave him $1 million to Trump for his inaugural ball. Let's not forget that. And then, now YouTube's like, oh, yeah, well, now you can talk about the stolen election and, the pharmaceutical companies, the COVID-19 stuff. But anything else, we're going to shadow ban that. Trump don't want you to hear. This is the world we live in, folks. Sonny, how's it good? Sonny, good evening, Tom. Watching the end of the Yankees game. I know. I see your stuff. I know you're big into baseball and stuff. I'm not messing with you. But anyway, maybe the Twins will get to sit there and get to play in one again, huh? Yeah, but it's a good distraction. Whatever. It's better. I tell you what, I'm definitely not watching the Minnesota Vikings anymore. Nope. The flaming homosexual cheerleaders, that's enough for me. The NFL's lost its mind. I mean, I couldn't even imagine. I used to go to Vikings games, back in the 80s and 90s in the Metrodome. And I couldn't even imagine looking over to the cheerleaders and seeing some gay guys in there with the cheerleaders acting all, no, it just wouldn't fit right. And I would have been totally disgusted. So anyway, but, I guess, whatever. Maybe I'm just too traditional, but there's no way I would sit there and enjoy the, I know, it's funny, it's crazy. Like I say, and then these people, this craziness, it's gotten so out of control now. And I think a lot of it has to do with the pharmaceuticals, too many pills being pushed. Maybe that affected it, and people's brains are having problems functioning correctly. But we definitely got, it's way worse than the hippies of the 60s. Okay, way worse. Charles Manson wants to start a race war. Well, the liberals want to start a race war. I always like to throw that in there. Liberals want what Charles Manson wanted. Isn't that crazy? Remember the women that followed him in court, shaved their head and stuff? Need I say more? Do you see the same behavior that's going on now? But the way the Insurrection Act is written up, Trump has all the authority he needs, especially in Portland and Chicago, because they refuse to protect the people. Okay, the Insurrection Act is basically designed to protect the people of a state if the state is unable or unwilling to take care of a problem. Isn't that what's going on? You got Democrats that are like, yeah, this is pretty good, But, it just puts military in the streets. And like I say, in D.C., they're still in D.C. When are they going to leave? They've been there, almost 60 days now? Is that what, has our country become so crime-ridden after Clinton put 100,000 more cops on the street because we're going to make the U.S. a safer place? No, they just turned it into a police state. But the police state is so dangerous now that we need to turn it into a military state. Because, then we get into DOD Directive 5240.01 that Biden pushed through, like 8 to 6, just be a couple months, if that, before the election, that authorizes the Defense, the Secretary of War, I guess, it's no longer on defense, authorizes the Secretary of Defense to deploy active duty troops in the United States to squash hate and discontent, basically. Make sure the pitchforks and the torches don't come out. And authorizes lethal force. With no restriction on what weapons they can use. So, when we got threatened with F-15 and Hellfire missiles and stuff, I don't think they'd use nuclear weapons, but, is that just this could happen? My God, do we live in crazy times. Can you imagine? Okay, I was born in 1967, so I remember the hippies a little bit. I remember the Apollo spacecrafts going up a little bit. That was all over the news and stuff. I was young. I remember a lot of stuff. But, I never in my wildest dreams, especially when I was growing up, going through high school and in the Marine Corps, that I'd ever deal with a country that is like this. Where these Democrat politicians, even Hillary Clinton, saying there's no way we're going to, illegal shouldn't be here. It's not right. It's against the law. and anybody who encourages it is wrong and stuff, and then they all just flipped. But what it's causing, these people that are going after these ICE agents on these well, it's just getting to be a dangerous place. Yeah, I'm just waiting for the first time when somebody does get killed, if there's a firefight or something, whatever. People are unhinged on both sides. Heck, it could start on the street with the protesters and the anti-protesters. All of a sudden they start shooting at each other. You know, how's your camp? You know, I wasn't able to go. I got to work. So, you know, plans changed. All of a sudden, just a lot of calls. Maybe next week I can get it done. Otherwise, I'd be sitting by a campfire right now. And anyway, they changed the weather forecast. They're talking rain on Friday. I'm not going to go up there for just one day. So, but it'll happen. You know, maybe camping, maybe that may be the way of life here pretty soon. Crazy time. You know, if you're in the big city, you're really going to be affected by this. Me out here in flyover country, no. But between the Insurrection Act, if you live in a city that obviously can't get along, and, you know, it's going to be a sanctuary city, you know, New York's coming, okay? They're coming to New York too. But I guarantee it. And, you know, wherever. And then they'll start hitting California maybe a little more. But, you know, Trump's got 3 more years to do this. And the more these people act up, like I said, why can't they just get along? Why can't they just go home, go back to work, and settle down? And say, you know what, we lost the election, Trump's in charge, and so what, he's getting rid of my neighbor who's illegal. You know, they can always try to come back up here legally. There's not saying they can't do it the legal way, is there? But, you know, started in LA and stuff. And then these people, right, they're just doing ungodly things that a normal citizen of this country could never do to a cop, okay, in any shape, way, or form. You show to be a threat to a cop at all, at least this way I was taught, I mean, you're going down. Taunting them and stuff. Like I say, arrest the Portland mayor, the governor, the chief of police, anybody in the city council that's a retard with the rest of them. Arrest them. You want to get, you know, they're going after, just like in D.C., they're going to bring the military in, but they're not going to drain the swamp with it. They're going to get rid of the guy who's trying to sell a bag of weed on the corner, right? That's the guy they're concerned about. So the big criminals get to go. See, like I say, here they're arresting protesters. Well, the protesters are going to keep coming unless they arrest the people at the top, and these people are going to wake up and say, hey, if they're going to arrest the mayor and the governor and the chief of police, I may just stay home today. But see, like to say, that would solve the problem. And it just doesn't seem like they're trying to solve the problem. They're trying to bring more force at the problem to create more counter force. Like I say, they could solve it in one day. Chicago mayor, you're arrested. Yeah, Chicago, INS free zones or ICE free zones. I mean, are you kidding me? But this is the politicians these days. But if they start going after these people that are saying this stupid stuff and allowing this stupid stuff, I mean, aren't they committing some type of crime? Anybody in their city would probably say, yeah, it's time for them to go. How do these people still keep getting elected? I got a feeling that, DC, how you doing? I got a feeling that all elections are rigged. They're rigged just enough to keep us at each other's throats. Isn't it amazing that we haven't, every election has been so close for so long? I mean, when we were in 2000, what was it, down to 1,000 votes in Florida? How it's just, ever since Clinton, it's just been so close all the time. Where, Bush in 2004, they thought he lost, and Kerry thought they had won that night, and they're already redesigning the Oval Office to come to find out Trump won. Yeah, selections, not elections. I tell you what, I ain't ever going to get kicked in the gut again. I'm done with that. I'm sick of politicians saying the word democracy. We're not a damn democracy. We're a constitutional republic with democratic principles. Okay? And like I say, okay, if we're a democracy, what democracy are we? The liberal Democrat democracy that the Democrats want, or the mega Republican democracy that the Republicans want? Which democracy are we? See, in a constitutional republic, there's only one. And our politicians, they don't even understand what form of government we got. Anyway, $38 trillion in debt. There's so much bad that's going to happen. If you, like I say, if you are in the big city and you can afford it, living out here in flyover country isn't expensive. What I hear about people paying rent in these big cities, after paying a year's worth of rent, you bought a house and fixed it up. Yeah, there's not a Starbucks everywhere, but it's, don't have to lock your doors, don't have to take the keys out of your vehicle. You can sleep with your windows open because nobody's going to break into your house, come in through them. I tell people, I had doing a video once and talk about how, the cool breeze in the summertime comes through the windows at night. And they go, how long it's been since I was able to keep my windows open at night? Anyway, and it's just what the country our politicians are creating. All I know is when all that stuff comes out here, the cities are already on fire. But you need to get out. I mean, if you can't see what's going to be coming down the street one day, and that's, once the military takes over, then it's just going to be military checkpoints everywhere. Do you have a reason to go through this checkpoint? Can I see your ID? You're tracked everywhere. And, with the digital ID and stuff. I heard in, Vietnam with the digital ID that, it was voluntary, but the people that didn't, volunteer to do that, the government finally seized their bank accounts until they're going to comply with it. Boy, that's freedom of choice, isn't it? It's just like they can't track us enough. They just need more information on us, more input. God. I don't want to know nothing about anybody, and I don't understand these people in government when all they do is, what's the end game of knowing everything about everybody? What is the end game in that? It just seems like trying to solve pi. You're never going to do it. There's anyway. Oh yeah, communism and stuff. I mean, remember MacArthur? That was bringing out in not Douglas MacArthur, but the McCarthy heir. Okay, yeah, he was saying was radical back then. But what we're living in now, what McCarthy said in the McCarthy hearings was true. If it's infiltrated entertainment, Hollywood, education, our universities, our politics. I think history needs to sit there and, maybe give him a little slack. He was trying to call it out back. That was in the 50s. I don't know when in the 50s, but he was trying to call it out then. And now we're living pretty much what he said. Anyway, and then you get Trump in there with an ego. Anyway, they're going to invoke the Insurrection Act. There's no doubt about that, because the way it's written, that's what's going on today. Okay? He needs to go in there with federal troops to protect the citizens of that state, because the state is unwilling to protect them. He always says, I'm going to protect every American. I mean, I don't understand the end game of these politicians. I mean, they're doing this all over illegals. These politicians have a total disconnect with where their money comes from. They just see all the time the accounts being filled. And if they're not filled right, the government accounts, well, you figure out shady ways of getting money, selling bonds or whatever, or with the federal government just printing money. I mean, between World War III, Insurrection Act, Three-Eye Atlas, or the dollar collapsing is what will destroy this country the fastest. People do not understand. If you've never been to a third world country before, you will. This country is not ready for something like that. And when our dollar becomes worthless, I mean, gold over 4,000, I guess it was getting close to 4,100. I mean, is it going to be 5,000 by Christmas? Maybe 6,000? I mean, that should be big news, huge news. And what do? They just want to sit there and put the country deeper into debt. It's crazy time. I mean, I remember watching gold in the late 70s when it was, just over $200 an ounce. Okay, 50 years later, or less than 50 years later, it's over $4,000 an ounce. The reason I don't think silver will ever follow in the situation we got created now, because silver is too much of an industrial metal. And that's what holds it down. People, you're crazy. Okay, what would you pay? Because silver technically should be, $500 an ounce for sure by now? But you know what that would do to your cost of your television set? I mean, everything. Talk about inflationary stuff. That's why I think silver is held down, because it's used too much in industry. And that can't. Not that gold isn't used. Gold plating, best conductor of electricity and stuff, but silver. But anyway, gold. You don't hear nothing of it. It's just another sign, and as fast as it's going up, something's going down, people. Something's going down. The elites know it. The elites are willing to pay over $4,000 an ounce for gold. That's how dangerous things are right now. That's how is it to them, whatever they see, that they need to be protected. The thing is, they're paying monopoly money for it. See, that's another thing. They're giving worthless money for something that's worth something. I always say, if you can sit there and exchange your greenbacks that's worthless for something that's worth something, go for it all day long. You can find somebody that's willing to get rid of something that's worth something all day long. And I'm not talking this new Chinese crap made garbage or anything made recently. Go back about 40 years. This thing will still last another 100 years. The economy is going down, yeah, and that's going to sit there. That's the thing that's going to affect all Americans at the same time. Just like when we all ran out of toilet paper on that Saturday. Remember that Saturday when the whole country ran out of toilet paper? Everybody was affected that day. That's the way the economy collapse is going to be. Boom, and that quick. And since everything is done on credit these days, businesses, they are crazy. I'm not consigning their behavior. I'm saying that we allow it. With the right responsibility consequence, they'll stop and hide second, 99%. They'll stop and hide second. Anyway, where was I at? I was on a roll. But anyway, things are getting crazy. I just know something big's got to go down. Something has to happen to get the people in some type of mind frame where they're not going to go to the streets with the pitchforks and torches. See, the thing is, if that's happening, they can sit there and, we deal with Portland and Chicago and here, there, Memphis, and we're not even here where they're all at. They can maybe handle 20 cities, okay? But when you get to smaller cities that are between 100,000 and 500,000 going up, there's not enough troops, people. There's not enough people. I mean, this partisan, even in the small area I live, Ogallala, Nebraska is about 50 miles away. And that is the bigger cities, North Platte, Ogallala, which is still a town to you people, but liberal mindset. They've even infiltrated the small, now where I live in smaller towns, they haven't got out here, and a lot of people commute, like to Sydney and stuff. They'll live in where I live and they'll commute because, like Sydney, where Cabela's started out and stuff. And it's just the bigger towns here that have a few thousand people in there. That's all it takes for that corruption to start. But thank God we don't even have a couple thousand people in our county. But this is just some bad thoughts. These people have lost their minds, okay? They're just giving Trump a reason to call the military out. You got judges sit there, you can't call out the Oregon National Guard. Let me tell you something, judges. See, the military takes an oath just like you do to the Constitution to protect that, not follow some judge's order. And, if you live in a big city, you're going to have to deal with this stuff. When they become war zones, like I say, just arrest the people in charge of the city, Trump. Go in there and arrest them. Parade them out. That will quash it so fast. Yeah, they may get a little excited at first. But people are sick of the crime in the city. What did I hear? Statistic, there's 110,000 gang members in Chicago alone. 110,000 gang members in Chicago alone. Okay, now when I got out of the Marine Corps after the force reductions, and everybody got up some, but the Marine Corps was like 176,000. Everybody in the Marine Corps, 176,000. Active duty, okay? So you're telling me that that's a gang, and that's just one city, folks. This could all get ugly, real ugly. Anyway, well, they got to come to some common ground, but these people need to start realizing that we need to get rid of the illegals. The people that pay the tax in this country are done with it. The people that have to compete against jobs with these people, we're done with it. The people that got to deal with crime from these people are done with it. Okay? We want our country back. But now we got the military in the streets. I mean, this is like I say, remember all the news you used to watch of these terrible countries where their militaries were out in the street and tanks driving down the street and military checkpoints the citizens had to go through, and we'd sit there and hear how bad those countries were? What the hell do you see here now? I mean, those LA riots they had with all the foreign flags in there. If they weren't saying it was LA, you probably wouldn't even know what country it was from. You know, if you wanna make your country great, go back to your country and make it great. But anyway, ATU call for an uprising. I don't have to call for nothing. It's going to happen. I mean, history shows it's going to happen. We are divided worse than we were before the Civil War. Okay, the Civil War, that was almost a split that was done in a gentlemanly way. Okay, states succeeding and saying, no, we're not going to be part of the union no more and stuff. Whether it was legal or not, I'm not going to get into that, but it was more done in a gentlemanly way. So, the South always calls the Civil War the War of Northern Aggression. So how do you actually know anyone, what's the truth and what's a lie? People, most of these crap we're told and only get half a story. We're not there in person 24/7 to see the actual truth. Exactly. And that's why whenever you can hear, like they have audio of Civil War vets that they had audio of in the 1900s before they died. And back then it was about states' rights. When they went to war at first, it wasn't nothing about freeing the slaves. I mean, Lincoln's advisors wouldn't let him bring that into it, the Emancipation Proclamation, till almost 2.5 years after the Civil War had started, because they didn't want to lose public support for the war. It's like saying World War II was fought over freeing the Jews. It wasn't now, was it? But they don't teach history no more. Believe me, I'm finding out a lot about the Weimar Republic in Germany and why it turned into such a Sodom and Gomorrah place that the German culture had enough, that they were willing to sit there and put the mustache man in charge because he offered a better life than the Weimar Republic. That's how bad it was. A crazy man looked better. I tell you what, learning history, I am a history buff. And I know a lot about World War II. Is my favorite part of the history, especially the European theater, and especially the German and the Russians. But why, I always say, why did Hitler come to power? How could he have come to power? How could this crazy son of a bitch have come to power? All you got to do is study the Weimar Republic. What type of books did the Nazis burn? Look that up. The same type of books that the parents would pull out of these school libraries right now and burn. Yeah, those were the books that were burnt. And it just happens most of them were done by Jewish authors. Do you know that the Nazis banned about a little over 4,000 books? And when the Allies took over Germany, the West Germany, the Allies banned 30,000 books. Anyway, just a little bit of history that's not taught. I tell you, this is the thing. I cross-reference things, okay? I don't sit there and take one person's word for it, but it makes me interested and I start digging. And like I say, when you ask a question in world history, how did that man come to power? And the history teacher starts talking about, World War II being a continuation of World War I and stuff. Okay, yeah. But how did he come to power? He didn't even have the answer for that because he probably wasn't even taught. Anyway, crazy times, folks, crazy times. And that was the fight we had in the street back then. That's why in Germany you had the anti-fascists, where it was created against the fascists. Who were the anti-fascists? The communists. That's who that's who made up the anti-fascists, just like they do in this country. That's why they call you a fascist, because that's their number one enemy. They can only focus. Everybody's a fascist to them. Okay? Mary would be, these people, that's how they think. And when they say that, they're just admitting that they're communists. Okay? That's all they're admitting. Not that you're a fascist. They're just admitting that you're a communist. Okay? And I just don't see too many fascist ideas in our culture. If you think we're fascist, this country's fascist, just listen to some POW memoirs, German POW memoirs that spent their prison camp time in the United States and how they were affected compared to, wow. They treat us better here in prison than our own country did. If they treat us this way, how do they treat their own citizens? Like I say, I go to the horse's mouth. You want to know how George Washington felt? Read his words. Any founding father, read their words. And you'll find out a lot of history you weren't taught. But, they tried to create the perfect union, but they knew it was going to decay into, because human beings like destroying stuff. And this is where we're at now, to where Trump can declare the Insurrection Act. The thing is, right, like I say, I don't think he wants to solve the problem, because he does that. We're going to expect results, right? Every American citizen, if he calls the troops in to these cities, we're going to expect results if he signs an Insurrection Act, invokes it. See, right now he can just threaten them, get them all worked up, get them all excited, get them so, there's always a crowd outside the Portland ICE facility. In Chicago, just won't settle down until they can have that one spark where they can just go hog wild. Portland and Chicago may be bad, but it's nothing like the Summer of Love. Not even close to the fiery but mostly peaceful protests. Not even close. But this is what we need the Insurrection Act for. Like I say, go arrest those people that are causing it. And it's not the rioters on the street. They're just on their leashes doing what they're told. I don't understand where you're getting to too high office or whatever, you're immune to prosecution too. This is bull crap. Like that apartment building across from the Portland ICE facility, all they got to deal with every night. Hey, maybe we can actually get winter. Wouldn't it be nice if all of a sudden next week we got a cold front and snow that sat there, everything above the Mason-Dixon line just froze its ass off. That'd send them all home now, wouldn't it? Continued next year. Anyway, anything to keep the troops from having to come to the city. Since Trump don't want to end this, maybe God can help us a little bit with the weather so we can end this horse shit. Because once they're not on the streets no more, Trump loses all his control and power over this. Don't they understand that? They're the ones that are giving him the ammunition he needs to put more gasoline on the fire. Not, anyway, he to me, he does not have no intention of making the situation better. And, they're trying to turn it into the summer of love. But like you say, maybe we can get some nice winter weather here. It is going to be the middle of October already. And it'd be nice to get a winter to settle these people down, send them home. But then again, is ICE going to keep arresting these people? I don't know. Are there still arrests going on? I don't even know that. See, it's just another distraction of what's going on here. Like I say, the financial, I still believe the government is more worried about that than anything else. And all this other stuff is just to try to distract us from the biggest problem. And maybe it's something they can blame it on. Anyway, when the dollar goes down, remember, when does the Christmas season, shopping season start? Well, heck, they probably already got stuff out on the shelves. Everybody's broke and their money's worth nothing, okay? And Trump can say all this country's making money like you wouldn't believe. And he's talking about a $2,000 rebate check. Maybe they're doing that to help boost Christmas sales, right? Anyway, I tell you what, let's see how this country's really doing. Let's get rid of the Health and Human Services Department, all welfare, all EBT, all government assistance to everybody. For one thing, we'll save a ton of money. But let's see how good this country really is. I mean, you know how long our soup kitchen lines would be? A lot longer than they were in 1929 and 1930 and 31 and 32. Oh, way longer. That's one thing about the Health and Human Services Department. Tries to hide the poverty in this country. But, I guess they couldn't quite get it out of D.C., because Trump had to kick the homeless out with the military. Anyway, great world we live in. So maybe if your city keeps wanting to sit there and support illegals and have hate and discontent and give Trump a reason to bring troops in, you may not have a Merry Christmas. But maybe we could get, like I say, a nice big Arctic blast here in the next couple of weeks. Well, he's still thinking about the Insurrection Act. Like I say, why would he do it? That would solve the problem. When he can just troll the other side with it all day long. You support illegals? I don't know what to tell you, I don't. Okay, and I have Mexican friends that don't either. Anybody who's come to this country legally, when you got Mexican friends calling them wetbacks and shit, was that a racist term for them? Nope. I don't support coming into this country illegally. Anyway, But then again, I'm not a politician. And they don't hear us very good, do they? What Trump did with the illegals. Well, he still hasn't shut it down. And he still is, what's he going to get rid of? Maybe 2% of them while he's in the next 3 years? Like I say, they're all going to be replaced with H-1B visa workers, okay? Foreign workers. Another stupid program, government-funded program. Anyway, why do we got to be the nice guys all over the world? I mean, I'm so sick and tired of hearing countries, oh, because the government shutdown, was it Myanmar's now is complaining that people are going to die? And then the Democrats, when DOD was doing its work, 300,000 people already have died because of what DOD is doing. Since when is it my job to make sure that I can sit there and help out and fund every little ache and pain everybody has all over the world? Okay, I hate that shit. The only reason our government goes around to these countries passing out money is for control. Hey, I rubbed your back. When I need you to rub mine, you're going to rub mine. You know, peddling influence. So, but it's not like the politicians giving away their money. The president's never given away his money. He's giving away our money. But we don't have any money anymore. $38 trillion in debt, like I say. When that hits us, it's going to hit us as fast, and it's going to hit everybody just like that Saturday we ran out of toilet paper. Everybody remember that in this country, that Saturday? That's how the financial crash is going to hit us all at the same time. And everybody's going to go, oh, shit. Okay? Because everything's done on credit now. When the credit market sees up, these big companies sit there and borrow money so they can do this or that, so they can get through the month with expenses and stuff. Okay, when that all dries up, because the thing is, our money's going to be worthless. But the one thing it will solve, the one who supports the illegals here, Alex, is all the illegal immigrants are going to go back home. Because when the peso is worth more than the dollar, they're going to go back home. Oh, that'll never happen. Well, back in the 80s, it was like 125 pesos to the dollar. Now I believe it's around 20. And gold's over $4,000 an ounce. Anyway, but that'll solve our illegal immigration problem because, nobody's going to come here and work for a worthless dollar. So, whatever. And there's going to be a lot of people that are going to have to work just to sit there and survive day to day. Anyway, this country's got a lot of problems. Will they take us to World War III before then? I don't know. And then they sit there and say Russia, it's going to collapse and stuff. The ruble. Russians are living better than us. Russians have lower inflation than us. And they have bombs falling on their nation. And then Trump's going to send Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. How much more do you think Russia's going to take? Just like they're poking them until they sit there and react. Just like a liberal does. Pokes at you until you react. And then all of a sudden, they're the victim. Once you stand up for yourself, they're the victim. Man, I'm so sick of this war. Boy, We got a war going on in this country, right? Insurrection. Maybe we can spend maybe $250 billion on eradicating this insurrection from our country. They sit there, the Democrats say, well, January 6th was an insurrection. Really? Who was ever charged with insurrection? What were they charged with? Trespassing. That type of stuff. Nobody's ever charged with insurrection. Because you have a protest that was infiltrated by every government agency with hundreds and hundreds of agents, provocateurs to cause problems. I mean, I seen the video who was breaking the windows. It looks like the same people that are across from the Portland Ice facility. Yeah, it looks like the same people. But anyway, we're never going to see the truth on that. When the economy collapses, I bet the third world countries will not be happy to see Westerners show up looking for help. No. And that's the thing. We're always out helping these other countries out. Who's going to help us out? Nobody. We're on our own, people. And the thing about it is, then they're going to come at us. We have pissed a lot of countries off in the world. What are it going to be like when we can't have, 12 aircraft carrier groups out there? What happens when we can only afford 2? And we don't even have enough to protect our own coast? I mean, when we get weak like that, they're going to come at us big time. I mean, China will be like, hey, Canada, let's be friends. Hey, let's build some military bases right on that northern border with the United States and Russia. Hey, Mexico, you want some of our cruise missiles? Americans aren't ready for such stuff. Russian bases in Mexico and Chinese bases in Canada with, enough military hardware to sit there and start an offensive either on the southern or northern border or maybe at the same damn time. Have you ever seen the first Red Dawn? Yeah, this is the world we live in. Anyway, it'd be nice if the American people could sit there and do something about this and take our country back and maybe not sit there and have to destroy the whole world. But yeah, things are going to get hairy. I know it's not a good talk, but things are getting worse every day, and it's spreading. Americans are becoming more miserable and unsafe every day. It's not because they go to work and put in their, normal 60-hour week now these days for the paying nothing. But it's not that guy causing it, it's our politicians. I mean, we're just cannon fodder to these people. I mean, when the government's got a contingency plan, to continue the government. That doesn't include the citizens of the country. The ones that are outside the gates, they don't care about us. What are you going to sit there and have the United States of America government when no longer in the United States exists? Anyway. Holy cow, I'm at an hour already almost. But yeah, Trump, if he does invoke the Insurrection Act, I think he's just going to threaten it for a while. Because, like I say, this is nothing like the Summer of Love yet. And he didn't bring him out then. Because he said he's going to let the states take care of it. But by rights, in Portland and Chicago, because the authorities there are unwilling to take care of the problem, he has the right to invoke it for Portland and Chicago, the way it's written. But anyway, crazy world we live in, people. Remember, everything's safe, everything's hunky-dory, food prices are great, and just keep watching football. Sonny, I hope you're enjoying your baseball. But don't look at the man behind the curtain, okay? Just be as you scare me so much. Anyway, things are going to get bad. It just seems like they're not trying to solve the problem. I mean, if this was going on, they're just not trying to solve the problem. It's maybe hitting a house that's on fire with a squirt gun. Maybe that's what it is. Okay, you're not going to do nothing except, make a little when the water hits it. But they could solve this a lot better. They could pull out the real hoses and take care of it. But if you live in the big cities, let's hope we get an early winter before he has to invoke the Insurrection Act. Winter will send everybody back home, and everybody will calm down, and we can start enjoying the holidays. After we get, we let a lot of enemies into this country. So there's a reason we need to look over our shoulder. Okay, we need to get back to the days where we didn't have to do that. Wouldn't that be nice? Anyway, I was going to tell you a joke about time travel, but you don't like it. You didn't like it. Which one was that? Hey, talk about time travel, Dustin. You know John Titor? The story of John Titor? Titor. Look it up once. Interesting. Now, interesting. I'll just say that. And the way just look it up. But, I believe time travel is possible. The physics we know now will be all different 500 years from now. And, 3i Atlas is showing some of that to us. Human beings don't know, we're not the intelligent life in the universe. To the intelligent life of the universe, we're still writing on cave walls, okay? Time's an illusion. Time is a dimension. Nobody's going to deny that. So, but, that'll be even more interesting times, won't it? A fruit fly, they only live for a day. Oh, the fruit fly thing. Yep, I remember they had to sit there and everybody had to stop going into California because of the fruit fly deal, and they were going to eliminate it. And then now, 50 years later, you still got to stop. Every car's got to stop going into California. Anyway, but I remember the fruit fly thing in California. And that's the way it is. Parents listen to Walter Cronkite every night. So I had to sit there and watch the news every night. So growing up. So anyway. Well, I appreciate everybody being here. If you like the content, please hit the subscribe and the bell notification. Hit that thumbs up. Help support the channel. Anything we can do to help get the word out. And thank you for being here tonight, DC. Appreciate you being here. Yeah, where would your cousin go? If I could build a time machine, I'd be back in the wagon train days. Back when life was simpler. As a kid, growing up in the 70s and the 80s, you embraced technology back then. But being like I am now, as old as I am now, and seeing what it's done, and the lives our children don't have that we had back then. The feeling of freedom, the understanding of our culture and our history, and what the government's allowed to do and not allowed to do. I mean, if their government tried doing what they're doing today back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, oh, yeah. Imagine Ronald Reagan talking like these politicians talk these days. Okay. But, Ronald Reagan in the 1984 election only lost Minnesota because that was where Walter Mondale was from, and he lost a district of Columbia. But otherwise, he took he took all 49 states 50 states except Minnesota. But now we have elections that are always, this close, this close, this close. I'm not buying it anymore. Even Trump's so-called landslide wasn't no landslide. That's a landslide these days. Anyway, but this is the world we live in. So everybody better prepare for the future because it could get really crazy. All right? Depends. World War III, Three-Eye Atlas, insurrection, martial law, the dollar collapse, third world country. Just make sure you're able to react, okay? That's what survivors are able to do. They're able to react and adapt to their situation, just like a species. When a species can't react and adapt to their environment, they go extinct. So the human race could possibly face that in the next few years anyway. Who knows how crazy it's going to get? If we don't have violence in the street from Antifa, we got people shooting up other parts of the country. Like I say, I look at some of this stuff, and it's just like where I live, I got to be seeing what's going on, and I don't deal with it out here. I can't imagine what it's like having to deal with this shit in a big city. I can't believe how your tolerance has slipped so low that you could even deal with that for 5 minutes, because that type of shit wouldn't be accepted by anybody out here where we live, no matter what your political beliefs are, for 1 minute. And it really bothers me that Americans have to deal with this crap, and their elected officials won't do nothing about it, okay? I still live in an area where it's not tolerated, it's not going to be accepted, and, the people will stand abreast with the sheriff's department to deal with it. All right? Anyway, I can see, like I say, I'm on the outside looking in, and it's getting crazier all the time. I mean, these people are just acting like animals, like they're not functioning correctly. They have absolutely no control over their emotions. None. I mean, you're ramming an ICE vehicle with your Suburban? What are you, nuts? But this is the world we live in. If they're willing to do that to an ICE agent, they're definitely willing to do that to you if you got a Make America Great Again bumper sticker on, okay? Anyway, all I know is when MAGA starts getting that violent, then the shit's going on. The animals need this. They need something, okay? All I know is I consider myself a rational thinking human being. And I don't see any of these actions these people are taking that is rational. I mean, the outcome of it is stupid. You get arrested. You get tear gassed. Everybody's mad at you. You're obviously not going to stop the government from doing what they're doing. Do what the Republicans always do. Oh, we'll vote our way out of this. Anyway, and like I say, if they go in there and arrest the criminals at the top, the petty criminals at the bottom will go away. I just don't think they want to solve the problem. The pendulum swings. Oh yeah. I that short I made today that our constitutional the foundation, our constitutional Republican cultural foundation is crumbling. And the more the power throws the weight around, the quicker the house will topple. The more the people at the top keep pushing that weight back and forth. It's just jerking everybody. And then you don't know what to believe anyway. God, it's like you're hearing two different stories. Are there facts in this world anymore? Or just opinion, perception? I mean, you don't know what to believe. All I know is this country is an empire that is in the decline. And when the financial stuff really hits, like I say, gold's over $4,000, pushing $4,100 an ounce. It may have closed over $4,100. I don't know. And nobody's really talking about that. That's all being hidden up with the Protest and Insurrection Act, right? Just like the repo market. In 2019, when the repo market is where banks send money back and forth to each other for 24 hours or whatever, so the bank can pay its bills. Bank borrowing money from each other, right? Well, the banks wouldn't borrow money to each other anymore because they didn't trust it. So the government came over there and it took over the repo market. That would have collapsed the banking system in the whole world. And then we had, the COVID stuff to cover that up. So that's how they covered up the first financial crisis that was going out of control, was through COVID. And what they do, it gave them a reason to print a bunch more money and give some to the American people. But gold going up like this is obvious. I mean, when gold was $1,500 per ounce, everybody's saying, oh my God, it hits 2,000. That's just breaking. It'll never hit 3,000. 4,000 is Armageddon. What's that 4,000? And something's still holding everything together. I don't know what it's going to be. Just make sure you have an escape plan if you live in the big city. Because like I say, when stuff goes, it's going to happen like the toilet paper thing. 1 minute everybody's fine, and the next minute everybody's out of toilet paper and freaking out. That's the way the financial crisis is going to happen. 1 minute your bank card's going to work, and you go to the next store and your bank card's not going to work no more. And everybody's going to be in that boat. But I guess if they take us to World War III or totally clamp down on the citizenry before then, make it so we can't react. Anyway, I don't know what's going to go on. All I know is this is crazy times, and this isn't going to end well. So unless you can detach yourself from the system as much as possible, like me, the lone wolf, totally detached when that time comes. Bye-bye. And I'm out there enjoying the mountains with my horses and everything. But appreciate everybody being here. Please check out my other content on my channel. I got lots of videos out there. So, but everybody have a great night, and We'll see what we're going to discuss Friday. I never try to sit there and predict what we're going to talk about because by the time I get off here and I check stuff again, something major might have happened. Who knows? We live in a very volatile time. We live in historic times, people. Something your grandkids will be sitting on your knee and you'll be telling them about how crazy the world went for a while. Anyway, everybody have a great night. This is Tom with Hidden Truths. I'm out of here.